What if you could have great sounding audio from a professional microphone without being tied down to one location? Well, meet the Hollyland Lark M2S. Sorry, just needed something to drink. So, the Lark M2S is the latest lavaliere microphone from Hollyland. You might recognize their previous model, the Lark M2, which was this little button-looking microphone that became super popular on YouTube last year. It was tiny, it was stylish, and it had good audio at a decent price. So, what do you do to update it? Well, you make it even tinier, keep it relatively cheap, and take away one of the best things about the original? Well, in this video, I'm going to go over the new design, how it sounds, of course, as well as connectivity and battery life. But before we get to all that, let's just take a moment to check in with someone else who likes to keep it cheap, Brad Pitt, as we ask ourselves the age-old question, what's in the box? So, we open the box with this random dude on it to find a little plastic bag with some paperwork inside, including a card that looks like it was left by a therapist-themed Batman villain, a quick start guide to get you up and running, and a packing list card, we'll get back to that in a second, before getting to the main event, a case containing the microphones and receivers. Now, in my case, I bought the mini combo version, which comes with a USB-C receiver, a camera receiver, and 2 wireless lavaliere microphones. And that's pretty much it for the unboxing. It gives you what you need to get started, but not really anything in the way of extra accessories, is what my dumbass thought.
Alexandri, dumbass.
Until I took another look at the aforementioned packing list and thought to myself, where's all this other stuff that's on here? So I went back and set up my camera again, took out all the stuff from last time, and yep, there's a whole extra compartment hidden underneath here, which in my defense does feel like it was hidden a little too well. And in here, we get this big pouch, which contains a pair of dead cats, not actual dead cats, this thing wasn't made by Jared Leto. Then we get a USB-C to USB-A cable, and finally a 3.5mm audio cable. And that's it as far as what's in the box. So yeah, a bit of a silly mistake on my part, but otherwise a solid unboxing experience. And with that out of the way, let's take a look at how this thing looks. So for starters, let's talk about the case itself. Now, this thing is very premium feeling and is designed in such a way that everything has its own dedicated slot. And it's super easy to see at a glance where to put each thing. It does look and feel pretty much exactly like a case for a decent pair of earbuds, except when you put it next to one of those, it looks comically large by comparison. The receivers themselves look decent enough, I suppose, and give you some nice options for how to connect the microphones to whichever device you want, which we'll get to later in this video. But first, we need to talk about the design of the microphones. These things are absolutely tiny, weighing in at just 7 grams each. Now, if you remember the prior model from Hollyland, the Lark M2, those things basically looked like this. But now, they've essentially taken the whole casing off of the microphones, leaving you with a front side that looks practically invisible when you're wearing it, especially if you pin it to a black shirt. And this may be the biggest upgrade over the previous model, but it might also be the biggest downgrade as well. Let me explain. You see, the way the M2 worked is that it had a magnet on the back, and it also came with this little back part which you could put on the underside of your shirt, for example, to clip the microphone onto pretty much anywhere you want it. Hell, you could put it in your hair or wear it around your neck with a necklace attachment. But now, with the M2S, they've made it significantly smaller, which is great, but that also means that they've done away with the magnet. And that means you no longer have the option to put this thing wherever you want, since you now have to clip it onto a surface like this. Now, in some cases that might be fine, but if you're wearing something like a t-shirt, for example, you're pretty limited when it comes to where you want to place the microphone, meaning you might have to place it right on top of your collar, which can impact the sound quality. So let's talk about that. Now, when it comes to how this thing sounds, well, you've been listening to it for the duration of this whole video so far. So just a quick note here. When I was doing my initial testing, I actually filmed most of it on an iPhone with the USB-C receiver plugged straight into it. However, when I was filming the video itself, I used the USB-C to USB-A plug, plugged that into a hub, and then plugged that straight into my MacBook. And the sound I was getting from that actually turned out to be quite different than what I was getting when plugged straight into an iPhone. So I have the microphone in the same place, but as you can tell, the sound is quite different. So I just wanted to let you know, if you're planning on using this with an iPhone or straight into a camera, it's gonna sound pretty great. However, if you do plan on using it with your MacBook or something like that, be aware of what type of connection you use to hook it up, because it will impact the audio quality. All right, now back to the video. Now, as with anything else like this, your opinion of how good you think it is or isn't is going to come down to personal preferences. But I can say that from a technical standpoint, this thing is actually pretty damn solid. It records in 48 kilohertz 24-bit, has a signal to noise ratio of 70 decibels with environmental noise cancellation, meaning you can get very clear sound with minimal background noise, and it has a maximum sound pressure level of 116 decibels, meaning you don't have to worry too much about clipping the audio by being too loud. Although, coming from a long line of Arab men, maybe this doesn't automatically apply to someone like me. Alright, this all sounds good so far, no pun intended.
I seriously doubt that.
But let's get to the downside that I mentioned earlier. You see, when I recorded my very first test of this microphone, I wanted it to be as invisible as possible. So I put on a black t-shirt and clipped it right onto the middle of the collar, meaning the microphone was basically right underneath my chin.
Both of them?
Yeah.
And while it didn't sound outright terrible, it definitely did lead to the sound being a bit muddled, as well as being extremely susceptible to large dips and peaks in the volume depending on which way I turned my head. You see, to get the best possible sound out of a lav mic like this, you need to place it close enough to your mouth that it gets a clean signal, but not so close that the audio clips or becomes too loud. And you'll want to place it somewhere unobstructed so the sound of your voice is as clear as possible. On a shirt like this, that means placing it somewhere around your chest is usually the best spot, which is why you've probably seen hundreds or even thousands of people do this exact thing. But then the issue is, when you're wearing a regular t-shirt and you have to clip this thing on somewhere, where do you put it? Well, you put it on your collar. But now the mic is just a bit too close to your mouth, and it's also blocked by your neck, unless you're wearing a very low-cut t-shirt, of course, meaning the sound gets a bit muffled. So even an otherwise great microphone like this, and make no mistake about it, this thing really is very good for the price range it's in, it becomes less good just by virtue of where you place it. Now, you can mitigate this issue by trying to play around with the placement a bit, but it definitely is something you'll have to be mindful of when using this thing. So ultimately, yes, the new design is super sleek, and this thing is so tiny that it becomes practically invisible at times. But it does come at a cost of functionality and versatility compared to the older model. But if you're able to place it correctly, it really is a pretty great microphone. Next, it's time to talk about connectivity. For starters, the Lark M2S does come in several different versions, each of which cater to a slightly different way of connecting it. First, there's the USB-C version, which comes with 2 transmitters, a USB-C receiver, a charging case, 2 furry windshields, and a USB-C to USB-A cable. Then there's the one I got, the mini combo, which adds a camera receiver and a 3.5mm cable. Next, there's the regular combo, which adds a USB-C to lightning cable on top of that. And finally, there's the ultimate version, which replaces the lightning cable with an actual lightning receiver. And in my experience, the connection on these things is super stable and extremely easy to set up and start using. For example, if I just hook this USB-C receiver into my iPhone, it immediately turns on and starts looking for a connection. Then I just take one of these transmitters out of the case, press the little button on the side here to connect them, and almost instantly the light on here and on the receiver turns green, indicating which microphone is connected. It really is that easy to get started with these. Now, as for how far away you can go from your receiver and still use these things, Hollyland does claim that the connection on the Lark M2S is stable at a distance of up to 300 meters or about 1,000 feet, which is just an absolutely insane number. Now, they do claim that this is only in, quote, open, unobstructed environments without interference, which does seem to indicate that they're trying to cover their bases pretty heavily in case they don't actually live up to that number. So I think the only right thing to do here is to test it out for ourselves. So I am currently out and about in the real world. Do not recommend, first of all. And I'm gonna test how this thing actually performs in terms of distance. Now, Hollyland claims you can get up to 300 meters of distance. I'm gonna put that to the test as best as I can. So basically, I'm just gonna walk in a straight line and keep talking, and we'll see how it performs. Now, it is a little windy today, so I'll also put on this fancy little dead cat that comes with it, and let's see how we do. At this point, it's what, maybe 30, 40 meters out? What's interesting is whether you can hear me when my back is turned or whether I need to turn around in order for you to hear me. If you can't hear me when my back is turned, that makes things a little different. So at this point, you probably can't really even see me. I don't know if it's being picked up loud and clear, but I'd say we're about 70, 80 meters out. Of course, this is a wild guess. Also, it's pretty windy right now, so whether or not you can actually hear me, even if the signal is coming through, is a good question as well. I'll keep walking. All right, and this is about as far as I can go. Now, you probably can't see me at all. I am at least 200 meters away. So no clue right now whether or not this is working. If it is, that is remarkable because I put my phone on the terrace and I've been walking, like I said, this is at least 200 meters out. You can't even see me right now, I'm pretty sure. But if it's actually picking up sound right now, that would be remarkable. I don't know whether I'd actually ever be comfortable wearing it this far out, unless, you know, you're filming a thing and the camera is on your balcony or whatever. I mean, I wouldn't just leave my iPhone out and then walk 200 meters in some direction, even if I'm out in the woods or whatever. This is really far. So the other thing we have to test is whether the signal actually holds up, or it could be obstructed right now for all I know. So even now, I don't know if you can hear me, but then I'm about to go behind a van. I don't know if that's gonna block the signal or not, just me being behind a van. I should be out in the open again, but then what happens if I walk behind the corner? Can you still hear me? Or has the sound disappeared? Does the sound come back when I walk out here? So then at this point, hopefully you'll hear me clearly. And again, right now I'm just walking behind a tree. I don't know if that's gonna obscure the signal, but then let me just walk all the way over to the corner. And I don't know if the signal is still gonna be coming through or not. If you can hear me from around the corner, that's great. But if not, I guess it needs line of sight in order to work properly. And here we are, right back where we started. So that was a test of the connectivity. So as you can see, this thing actually delivers extremely well on the promise of range. I was honestly pretty surprised to find out just how far I could go with this thing still delivering crystal clear audio, with the only caveat being that you do need to keep a pretty clear line of sight in order for it to work. But yeah, I don't know what you'd ever use it for, but if you ever do find yourself needing to film a thing where you're talking while standing ridiculously far away from the camera, this thing has got you covered. And finally, let's talk about battery life. Hollyland claims that the Lark M2S can get up to 30 hours of battery life from the charging case, with the individual transmitters lasting up to 9 hours each on a single charge. And the case can recharge from 0 to 100% in less than an hour and a half using a regular USB-C port. Shout out to the EU for that. So overall, the battery life on these things is pretty incredible, to be honest. And in my experience, I haven't had any issues with the battery life at all. Again, if you're using just a single transmitter and they're all fully charged at the outset, you can film for 9 hours straight with one, then switch it out with the other one for an additional 9 hours of usage while the first one charges back up to full, just in case you need to film for more than 18 hours straight without a charge. So yeah, just an overall great experience in that regard. Just make sure to remember to take the little blue plastic covers off of the transmitters and the camera receiver, or they won't be able to charge at all. So my journey with the Hollyland Lark M2S has actually been a bit of a roller coaster. Initially, I was blown away by their compact size and build quality until I tried them out and was left disappointed by the sound. Only for me to try them again, this time with the correct positioning, and being overall satisfied with the sound quality, if not completely blown away by it. So yeah, I don't think these things are truly quite as good as a proper studio microphone, but they also aren't priced like one, and they offer you far more portability and flexibility than a quote-unquote real microphone does, while still producing audio that's more than good enough. And hell, what else gives you the power to record crystal clear vocals from the other side of a football field? Hell, several football fields actually. So while I do wish the form factor had allowed it to retain the flexibility of the prior model, if you're looking for a tiny, discreet microphone with decent audio and an absolutely stellar connection, then the Hollyland Lark M2S is definitely worth it. That's it for this time. If you made it this far, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel to see more tech-related content. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.